Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. How are you, Hannah?
I'm doing well, and how are you?
Hannah's up early this morning.
Yes.
I've been actually been able to sleep in a little bit because my kids are out of school. So
Oh,
and
wait,
not
you
much.
sleep
I mean,
in?
huh?
You
Yeah.
sleep in?
Well, we talk about sleeping in. I get about instead of waking up at 7, I wake up at like 7:40. Like
Oh,
seven
okay,
thirty. So,
okay,
so it's
okay.
I get maybe another 30 or 40 minutes. That's
Hey,
about it.
that 30, 40 minutes makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It does. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, especially when like last night, I think I went to bed at like 2 ish. So
Yikes.
yeah, that's normal.
I
Usually
know, I was about to
one.
say for you it's normal, but for all
Yeah,
of us normal human beings, we're like, I.
yeah. It's the only way I feel I can get anything done is I don't sleep as much. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you to our patrons, especially for all the support. Go to patreon.com/into the force if you want to join there. Got a little bit to talk about today, not
All
too
right.
much. In fact, the first thing I'll say is we are actually going to be shifting our release schedule now, based on Hannah's new position at her job. I think Tuesday nights have kind of are going to be better for us to record, which means I'll probably put the show out on. I'm actually going to try to. I'm going to try to put it on Wednesdays, but I'll probably put it on Thursdays more than likely. It just depends on what time we
Right.
do this. Before I was, maybe Friday or Saturday. So, but I want to, I'll pick a day and I'll make it pretty consistent. But I want to leave, I want to leave some space in between, still putting out some of these extra videos like Beyond the Saga and Council Session. So I'll have to figure out, might be a Monday, Thursday thing. Because I was trying to do like Tuesday, Fridays. So it might be more
Hmm.
like Monday, Thursday now, actually. So, and this will, Thursday might be the thing because we might have Wednesday as our backup if we can't do Tuesdays, right? Did you
Yeah, which I think we originally did in the first place.
I
Like
think
when we
so.
started doing
Yeah.
this, we started doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then life got weird,
Yeah.
and there you go,
There you go.
full circle.
So we'll do that from now on. And let's see. I wanted to talk about something. I don't know if you've heard this. I saw just a brief article about this. Mark Hamill, I think, is coming out in the new film coming out, and he talked about obviously the legacy of Luke Skywalker,
Mm,
and basically pretty much laid it out and confirmed that he is completely finished playing Luke Skywalker.
no, no, that's
Well, he did
impossible.
die, but obviously he came back to play him as a younger version of himself
Hmm.
in the Mandalorian. We'll
And then he was
see.
also the actor. What role would you call that? Because he did all the scenes in Boba Fett, and then the person who was filling in for him, that actor,
Yeah,
mimicked what he did.
I mean he was the reference actor, I
Reference.
guess
Okay.
you can say, and then they deep faked him, right? Basically.
Yes.
So not sure there'll be any deep fake. That's the thing, is you could still deep fake him. It's just not going to be Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
But is it going to be his voice? I don't know. There's a lot of questions there. I guess what this sparked a little bit was, and I know we've talked about this plenty of times, but have your feelings changed at all now that some time has passed, and as your feelings changed at all on these legacy characters? Do we still need, or do we want stories with legacy? Because what he said was, he basically said his quote, actually, I'll tell you his quote, is basically said, he's done. I had my time as Luke Skywalker. Star Wars should focus on the future. Meaning he's talking about new characters, future
Hmm.
stories. Is there some truth to that now, especially coming from a legacy character like himself, the legacy character?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is. I think, I've said time and time again, I want new Star Wars stories. I don't necessarily want the same ones. And is it cool to see all these different perspectives of the rebellion, of the rise of the empire, and things like that? Sure, it's cool to see all these different perspectives, but at the end of the day, I want new.
Mm, yeah.
Like, let's explore other zones of this timeline, which I know we will eventually get, but I wonder if Disney, or not necessarily Disney, but just the story idea of branching out into High Republic television wise, if they're wondering if that was the wise move or not, because it received such a backlash.
Mm, hmm.
I think it boils down to story. I think if you have a solid story, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Let's see it. Um, I mean, I understand, like, James Earl Jones signing over the rights for the voice of Darth Vader. So they can always use his voice. Like, that is him. I could see maybe Mark Hamill, although it may not have been announced, he did sign over the rights for his likeness with regards to deepfake AI and
Yeah.
his voice maybe potentially being audio mixed with AI. But, like, give us more. That's what makes me so excited to hear about the dawn of the Jedi.
Right.
It's going to be completely different. It's going to be from the beginning of time with regards to the Jedi
Hmm.
timeline. So I want new. I think a lot of us want new. I just hope that the stories can back it up. So, because Acolyte, I think, and this is my opinion, mine alone, not the company's, this is my own opinion. Um, I think with the Acolyte, it just, it could have been so much more. And I think there is a lot of solid story there. I think so. And I think a lot of the concept of it is great. But maybe, maybe in a couple of years we'll be like, you know what, it was a brilliant piece of work. Let's get it to come back. But anyway, I do agree with Mark. I think it's time for new. I think it's time for us to move on from this specific era that we've grown and loved and seen so much content within. Let's see new.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'm definitely I'm still definitely against anybody being recast
Oh yeah.
as at least Luke, Leia, and Han
Mm-hmm.
beyond Return of the Jedi. Like, I
Oh
just don't
yes.
think that that's smart. And I do think it's time. It's like, I mean, next year or 2 years from now we're approaching the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, and I think 50 years of the legacy characters. You're definitely into a whole other couple generations now of other people that never really, they may never even watch the original trilogy. Like
Yeah, true.
they may not even, they might just watch the shows now and maybe the sequel trilogy and stuff like that. So the impact I feel like that they have on people, like, it does not the same as like our generation and people that grew up with it like us, right? So
Right.
we gotta remember that. I think people are impacted now by the Mandalorian and Grogu, and Darth Maul possibly, when he comes back a little bit, Ahsoka, you know these I think Vader has this lasting, if anybody survives, it's Vader, that constantly could be there to do stories around and it still impacts Star Wars. But
Well, Vader, you had the benefit of the fact that he's facially neutral.
correct, yeah,
You could put
exactly.
anyone in that costume.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But I think the persona and the aura of Vader, like, even just everybody knows who Vader is. It's just every generation. It's wild, and I think yeah, I agree with you. I think the Acolyte, they tried to, do these new stories and new characters. It may not have hit the way it should have or could have. But I think, they have proven that you can do a story like Rogue One and, Andor with new characters and be successful at it.
I mean, Mandalorian, it's the response to everybody saying, oh, you can't appease both new and OG Star Wars lovers. And John Favreau went, hold my beer.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, he did do it. I think he is the type of person with his background and with his fandom of Star Wars that he obviously was capable of doing it. Yeah, so I think I think if anything, if you're gonna do the legacy characters, like if you're gonna do Han, Luke, Leia, beyond, between episode 6 and 7, which I'm pretty sure we're getting the hints that they're going to do a lot of stories during that 30-year gap between 6 and 7. If you're going to do it, I think you have to stick with animation.
Yeah.
I think you have to do it in animation. Obviously, they're going to do novels and they're going to do comics and stuff, but I think if you want to do it right, you do an animated series. I mean, Clone Wars was, I think was way more successful than they ever thought it would be.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if you had those types of stories with our legacy characters during the rebuilding of the New Republic, I think you got a success there.
Oh, what would you call it? Not the Clone Wars, but the...
Well, you can do the Yuuzhan Vong, like,
Oh my gosh.
because again, there's 30 years there of story that we've never touched really. I mean, there's some sprinkles, like Bloodlines is there.
Yep.
What is that? Shadow of the Sith is there. You
Yep.
have some stories sprinkled in there, but there's probably a good 10-year gap in there where there's nothing.
Oh man, if we got Mara Jade, oh
Yeah, and there could be another, not necessarily a rebellion or a civil war or anything like that, but like there could be a whole, like, I mean, there's all these, like the Chiss is an example. I mean, there's all these different factions and stuff all over the Unknown Regions, right? I mean,
yeah. It'd
maybe
be
one
cool
of
if
them
they brought in the
invades.
Yuzon Bong. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
The problem though is the new Yuzon Bong are too close to the Nihil.
Well, it's true, but not many people know about the Nihil either.
Well, if
I
you
mean,
read,
you could bring them back. Why not bring them back? I don't know if they get wiped out, but bring them back.
okay,
The problem is you don't have a lot of Jedi either. You don't have any Jedi.
yeah, it would be rebuilding the Jedi.
So it'd be Luke trying to rebuild, which we saw that he doesn't really get very successful with that. And then it's really just the New Republic. I mean, you basically have like more just battles and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe that's not appealing or not. But
No, it would be awesome, and you're right. You have to go animated. You have to.
yeah, I think so. I mean, you can do some live actions in there. Obviously, they're doing that with the TV shows, but it would be tough to bring those characters in
Yeah.
on that side.
Agreed.
But okay, that's really it that I kind of found and kind of floating around. The one thing I thought about, a friend of mine and I were talking about this last week, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this real quick. Is, and you know this if you're obviously you watch different types of television. There used to be, growing up, there used to be just one format of television. You watched every week for like 22 episodes, like 22 episode seasons. Sometimes it was 20, maybe it was 24. Even if they were 30 minutes or they were an hour, they were always like 20 plus episodes a season. And most series would go 5, 6 seasons if you're lucky. I mean,
Yeah.
the really, really rare ones went like Friends and Seinfeld and things like that went like really long, 10 years or so. But you had this formula that America loved, and we just expected that every week. And your season was always fall through spring, and summer was
Hmm.
always reruns. You know, it's like September was premiere season, May was finale season, right? So now we're getting into all types of formats. You have 6 episode seasons. You have 8 episode seasons. You have 10 episode seasons. You have series that have one could be a 30-minute episode, one could be a 59-minute episode. You have part one and part two of seasons. You know, it's like there's so many ways to do it, and Star Wars has even done it differently too, right? I mean, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett were kind of, and Ahsoka follow the same one, but then you have Andor that did 12 seasons or 12 episodes seasons. You know, you're getting. I mean, Acolyte was. I even can't remember how many episodes Acolyte was. 8, 10,
Something like that.
something like that. I don't even remember.
Right.
So I was just curious, like, and Andor season 2 was even a little different, right? You almost had 3 episodes, kind of making up a big movie in a sense that kind of represented a season almost. I mean, I know it was part of one season, but it almost was like a whole season in one arc. So I was thinking, what is your idea? How do you like to consume series? And like, is it what's how many episodes do you think is your ideal season? How long? I mean, do you even have a preference, or do you care?
So for me, it's how long do you need to tell the story? Like if I were to look at, for example, The Good Place, perfect amount of seasons, perfect length. They could have milked it for more, but they said no. This is when our
Well,
story.
how many seasons was it?
3 or 4.
Okay,
Um.
yeah, you know how
So
many episodes per season?
that was a more consistent number of episodes per season. I think for me, it's like okay. So pros and cons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pros with streaming is that you can make episodes as long as you want. You don't have to worry about commercial breaks or keeping in line with hour
Yep.
restrictions, half an hour restrictions, commercial restrictions. We've been through it. We've been through it. We know the rules. Um, you get to ignore those rules. You just say, "Look, this is the how long the episode is," and that's how we
Mm-hmm.
get short episodes, long episodes. So, part of me loves the freedom of that and also sees the satisfaction in that. If you feel like a season can be told in 6 episodes versus 8 episodes, I love it. It means you're not putting in stuff that's unnecessary and is going to lose viewers or make people think, wow, did they really have to put that in there? On the other hand, I do miss the nostalgia of there's only 20 seconds left in the commercial break, and you're running back from the bathroom or from grabbing a snack from the kitchen, and you know that intense time. And then I think the other thing too about quote unquote traditional television versus streaming is that everybody's on the same playing field. If you didn't get to watch all 3 episodes of Andor and you only got to watch one, then you're going to potentially be spoiled. Meanwhile, everybody's on the same playing field with weekly traditional television. Everybody has seen the episode. If you missed it, you missed it. Hope you DVR'd it, but that hasn't always been around.
Mm-hmm.
So if you missed it, you missed it. And you just accepted the fact that you would get spoilers. But now in the world of streaming, because everybody can do it at their own time, there's all of a sudden this huge sensitivity to spoilers. So I don't necessarily think I have a preference. I think whatever works for the formula you're going for and whatever works for the story you're telling, that's what you need to stick to. Like a lot of sitcoms, if you tried to stretch, like if you took How I Met Your Mother or Big Bang Theory or even Friends and tried to stretch it into, well, each episode is just gonna land at whatever time it's gonna land on, it won't work. I
Mm,
really think a lot of the jokes they would have would fall flat. So I think it depends on the formula, it depends on your audience, and it depends on what story you're trying to tell. And I know that feels like a cop out answer, but honestly, that's what makes me go, I don't really have an opinion on
mm,
it. I'm fine with either.
mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What do you what do you think?
Well, I think um, my first thought is that I think there is a point where a show can have too many seasons,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
even if the stories are there. I still think a show, because one thing that I think, and this is just me, maybe it's just me. I was thinking the other day, like one of my favorite all time series is Smallville.
I love small.
Smallville was fantastic, and I get my on my TikTok feed, I get Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum. They do this thing called Talkville, where they're
I love Talkville.
yeah they're going through all the episodes again. They're bringing guests on. They're talking through it. I love those guys. I think that's great. But so I thought about it I don't know, this is maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was thinking I want to go back and rewatch Smallville. Smallville's 10 seasons.
Yeah, it's a lot.
45-minute episodes because you take out the commercials, and 20 to 24 episodes a season. And I was like, man, I watched that over the course of 10 years. And I'm thinking like, man, if I go back and rewatch that, like, I can't sit down and binge. I don't have no time to binge like 4 or 5 episodes at a time. So I'll be watching one-offs like I did once a week or so, like it probably came out. So I was like, is it going to take me 10 years to rewatch this? So like I have this tendency of thinking like, man, maybe that was too long. Maybe 10 seasons was too much. Now, granted, they did a good job with those. Now, I even think that Smallville could have even could have been shorter. I think
Yeah, I think some of their middle seasons, like, oh, there's one season we always skip over because we're just like, yeah, it didn't need to be there.
well, I think Michael Rosenbaum had it right. He left after season 7.
Yeah.
It was like it was time, and I think 6, 7 seasons probably would have been perfect for that. Even though I love it, I love Smallville. But that's kind of where I'm at with. I'm with you in a sense where it's like I agree that the story should be there. That should be the driving force if you're going to keep going. And I think there always has been a tendency with some of these shows. Not now, comedy shows is one thing because you can always write more comedy and more storylines because most of the time seasons only renewed if it was popular,
Right.
right? So you didn't have an end game necessarily. You chose an end game later. I love shows that somehow, and it's very rare, that they have an end game when they even begin the first season. Like they
Yeah.
know where it's going. There's not a lot of shows that could do that, right? Because they don't know how long they have and what the popularity is going to be.
Right. And they
But
have it.
Smallville had an end game
Oh yeah, of course,
because the end game was him becoming Superman.
Yeah.
But I think as the popularity grew, they kept trying to squeeze in more seasons and prolong him becoming Superman, right?
I think it actually could have gone longer if it weren't for the writing strikes that happened during that last season.
Well, I don't think it was during the last season. I think it was like season 8. I think is when the strike happened.
Was it season 8? Well,
Yeah,
yeah, and now that kind of forced them to try to.
yeah. I think they were. But they were trying to get him to, he was the Blur for a while. He wasn't like he
Yes.
was wearing black. It's like he wasn't Superman, but he was doing all the Superman stuff.
Right.
So they just kind of, so anyway, but but in the end, I think and I've seen obviously the Star Wars shows, which Mandalorian only 8 episodes, but they're longer. Sometimes they're not always
Yeah.
longer. And then my experience, because I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do watch some Amazon shows, and like Reacher. And Reacher, I think, does 10 episode seasons, and they're long. They're like almost an hour each episode. Then of course you got the HBO, like you got Last of Us, and
Yeah.
you've got Game of Thrones and House of Dragons and stuff like that. That those are some of those are like hour and 15, hour and 20. I mean, they're almost like mini movies per episode. So I do agree with you. I do think that just the genre itself, to me, almost dictates the length of the episodes.
Right.
Because if you have a kind of a mystery type thing like you do with Reacher, like he's trying to solve something, he's trying to infiltrate something, or you have a chance to kind of grow the story there more. So I think an hour-long episode works for that.
Yeah.
A comedy series, yeah, 25, 30 minutes, that's all you got. Because like you said, jokes start not becoming funny. It's like, there's but then you get how many episodes a season? Like I feel like 10 is where I feel good about. 10 to 12.
I feel 10 to 12, the only show that I feel like is justified to have 24 seasons in it is the show 24.
Oh, yeah, totally. That worked.
That was brilliant.
It was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it definitely was. And
So
you're
yeah,
right. And you can't do that one. They tried to do that one where they did the movie. Did you see where they did the 24 movie?
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, it was Jack Bauer, and it kind of jumped. Time jumped. Obviously, he had to travel because he was in.
Oh,
I think he was in Africa or something like that, and he was traveling back to DC. So that they skipped 6 hours or whatever.
but that's the beauty of 24. It's in real time. It
Yeah, I know.
is
Well,
literally 24 hours.
that's right. And how they did that I think they did that for 8 seasons. I think 8 or 9
Yeah.
seasons. That was incredible. But I remember thinking because I didn't get onto that show until season 4, I think.
Okay.
And I remember hearing about it, all these people, friends of mine, talking about it. I was like, I couldn't, I didn't have for some reason, I didn't think of the concept that each season there was time in between each season. Because I was thinking wait a minute, what does this guy not sleep for 3 days? Let's. I didn't realize that they skip time in between seasons. But anyway,
They do.
so I think that's I think 10 to 12
Yeah.
hour long episodes is pretty. One thing we're not talking about is obviously the budget, right? I mean,
Oh, I didn't even consider that.
yeah, I mean sometimes you have to. You're stuck with so many episodes. You're stuck with so much time. But I think in the world we live in now, with the attention spans and the amount of content you have access to, I think less episodes is ideal, because it's hard to watch 20 episode seasons now.
Unfortunately, with the attention retention that people have, I would probably say 10 to 14 episodes per
Yeah,
season. It's probably your sweet spot.
which it looks like that's what Star Wars has been doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they've gotten it right, but everybody's doing that in a sense. I think Apple TV's doing that. I think Amazon's doing that. Netflix is doing that. They're all kind of doing it. I think the length of episodes, I think, is really what some of them change up. And again, production value of how much they're putting in these episodes goes a long way as far as like telling that story or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was just thinking of that the other day because I just, I was thinking about going back and watching some of these older shows, and it's like, God, there's a lot.
There is.
I mean, to get, before it was what, 4 seasons, and you did like this 100th episode kind of thing.
Something like
when
that.
when are series now going to be hitting 100 episodes? I mean, if they're a 10-episode season, they'd have to go 10 seasons.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? That 100 episode mark was kind of like a milestone for like really good shows, and it's gonna be hard for them to do that now. So
Yeah, seriously.
yeah. Well, that's it for this episode. That's the only thing I thought about really talking about.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, because like I said, I think, with looking back on Andor and how they did their season, that's kind of what made me think about it too. I liked how they did this last season. I don't know if I would have, liked seeing. I mean, I think we could have gotten five seasons of Andor, but I liked how they did it. I do like how they did it.
I agree. I like that they condensed it. I like that we got, so you still got that binging quality to it, but you also got the
Right.
anticipation of waiting for the next bit.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Like I told you, it would be a little shorter today. So
Yeah. And it actually was.
it was a little shorter. So thanks everybody for coming in and checking us out this week. I am out on a ship next week, so you will get a Beyond the Saga from us. We're going to be talking about Reign of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will be out next week, and then we'll be back the following week. Hopefully there's some more Star Wars news. I mean, it's going to be rough on Star Wars news, I think, for a while, because there's nothing really on the horizon. So
We'll find something to talk about.
we'll find something. I'll find something. All right. Thanks, Hannah.
Thanks, Dave.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks. May the Force be with you.